Hello, everybody, and a very happy Wednesday to each one of you. Today is a very special Wednesday. For those that don't know, today is the eve of my favorite holiday of the year, Thanksgiving here in the U.S. It is a day to eat lots of food, to watch sports on TV, to not have to worry about the awkwardness of gift exchanges, and to generally, in most days, in most years, a way to just enjoy some times with some friends and family. Normally, my wife and I do, normally she ends up working Thanksgiving, but we usually do a super fun Thanksgiving at friends' places. Unfortunately, that is not the case this year. So instead, we are making Thanksgiving ourselves. I just picked up a 12-pound turkey. My wife does not eat meat. I do, and my almost 2-year-old son does, so it is up to us to finish 12 pounds of turkey, and I could not be happier about this. So that is all to say that there is a reminder that this is the last critique of the week. I hope that all of you, whether you're celebrating or not, have a lovely long weekend and eat something special for you, and enjoy yourself and be safe out there. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go ahead and do a reverse order on the submission. So you see your names at the top. We're going to go backwards. Just because I feel like we have of the people that submitted today, we have Aaron, two Aarons, Aaron, Andre, Annabelle, Ashley, and then Kat, Mindy, Nigel. So I feel like everyone's front loading with the A names. So we're going to go in the back end and let Nigel, because with a name like Nigel, that's an N, that's right there in the middle of the alphabet. You should not be relegated to the end. So very cool reference that you pulled in. Just wanted to see these. These are like looking up and into some light. I meant to grab the Incredibles one too. I think I missed it. But yeah, totally great. It is kind of hard sometimes to find very specific reference like that. But you did a really nice job. So one of the things about this is just how much light is hitting their faces. Not so much on the cat here, but in this one, it really feels like there's a connection between the central part of her face and the light that's coming down. It feels like she's like really, really connecting with it. The one thing I noticed about, with yours here is that there's not as much of a connection there, just because, and really it would come in with a little bit like this light creeping around a little bit more on her front side, I realize, and really, really pushing that connection point between, and also it's like it would be her pose a little bit, like looking up into it. So maybe just, taking the lighting that you have existing now, because I think that's working pretty well, and then just adding a little bit of additional spotlight there in the middle, just to boost that just a little more, because I would like to see a little bit more of this, like I said, just a visual connection to it. The other thing that's nice about this is how much brighter her skin is than everything else, and just like how dark this is, it really allows her to stand out. And I wanted to take a look back at your previous version there. So you made some really subtle but really great changes. Like I said, you moved that spotlight forward, which really helps. You also added more shaping on this background sculpture, which again, kind of subtle, but makes a good difference. That looks really nice. You took down some of the really bright points on her clothing. I think you can pull those back like maybe 10% more, because like I'm looking, like what I'm looking as the shadow, more in the shadows. Like if you look in the shadow down there, now it's starting to get a little bit grayed out. So more in the shadows, just pulling back some of those saturation points in there. But I think, but other than the face there, just some technical things. There's on the edge of the flowers, there's just like it might just be in the flower itself. It looks like there's a little bit of darkening happening. And then down here around the sculpture, there's a little bit of a dark edge there. So just be on the lookout for that. And then I would smooth these, the edge of this guy here, just because I see some faceting down here towards the bottom, and same thing down there. And if you can get a little bit more value just on the underside of these, they're just a little bit dark. And again, because now that we have all this light right around there, you'd expect a little bit more bouncing in. But yeah, other than that, I think she's looking great. A little bit of a white line on the back of her arm here too. Just watch out for that guy. But really, really good stuff overall. All right, Mindy. This is looking very good. I think the background is looking a lot better. For someone who self-proclaimed not adept at Photoshop, you've done a really nice job with that. That makes a big difference. I do think you can throw it out of focus a little bit. Like you could put this character into like 2 pixels of out of focus, and that would allow you to also put a good chunk of this out of focus too. That value change will and the hue changes that you've made to the bricks will make a big difference, especially when you soften it just a touch. And the reason why I say that is because this background here has a lot of like sharp shapes in it, and that can have a tendency to draw the viewer's eye away from the main character, especially when that main character is a little bit softer in their tones. We've got the light up here coming down. I still think that the shadow is a little bit on the sharp side, because we've got light coming down here. It's almost like it's from a street, like the street lamp that's hanging and wrapping around there. Yeah. So because usually those aren't bare bulbs. They're usually a piece of glass over top of them, which will diffuse the light quite a bit and create a lot more softening down there. So just go ahead and increase that radius just a little bit, and that will soften that light. I do think that you might be able to get away with darkening this basket, like in the stuff in the shadow right here, just a little more to create a little more of a dynamic between the light and the shadow there. Good shaping across her face overall. I think that's looking really good. I think this character's always looked really good. And that would be, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Watch out for these pink flowers in here. Some of their white bits, like here, get a little bit bright. I'm fine with it like on this side, but down here you may want to just like roll off those highlights and make them just a little bit darker, just so we can kind of keep the focus in right here. But yeah, I think this one's looking really good. I think you've come a long way, and it's looking really well. Oh, last thing, watch out. These greens down here are, and then there, and there are looking a little super saturated. I would just pull back the saturation on the greens just a touch. All right, Kat, big progress here from the last iteration. Much more shaping. We had a chance to speak yesterday and share your screen and take a look at some stuff. So now I have a better understanding of what you got going on in Blender and what you're trying to achieve. So I think we've made a lot of progress, and that's great. The one thing that I would like to see you balance out a little more before the next iteration, you mentioned the dark shadow, the darkness in the background, and that's totally fine. You can give you a chance to work through that. It's finding a balance between her garments and her skin. So her skin is darker, and that's totally fine. That looks good. It's just that the amount of light that's hitting her face, that like if you just kind of this is going to be super janky, so forgive me. If you just look at her face, right? And you imagine like the amount of light that would hit this face is hitting the body down below. Like you just imagine like how much light you'd see on garments. Now, let's flip this. Now think about look at these garments. Like look how bright they are, and imagine how much light would be on someone's face. And so there's a little bit of disconnect between these two, in that it looks like, and this is just so common in lighting, because like you'll put one light source out there and shine it on something, and like I said, in this case, the garments are accepting a lot more light than the skin is. So what you have to do is you have to find balance in your shaders, and that's a matter of toning down. I think in this case it'll be a matter of toning down your the garment shader a little bit and just darkening it down, so that when a certain amount of light hits it, it looks good on the skin and also looks good on the garment as well. In terms of the skin tone, it's looking really good. Just be careful. We talk about this in the course with lighting dark skin characters, not push the diffuse light too much and allow the specularity to do a lot of the shaping work. So I would actually, if you have control over this in your lights, pull back on the diffuse contribution and allow, because that will allow the skin to remain darker, and then push the specular contribution, and that will create the nice shaping in the specular values. So we see that a lot in reference from the TV show Insecure, which does a really great job with dark skin. Black Panther, Last Black Man in San Francisco. I forget the name of that movie, but that one does a really good job of it too. So that would be, I think that's your main focus going forward. I do want to commend you on one other thing that's really subtle, is like these, I almost said the word driblets. I don't know if you know if that's a word. These little bits of light that are hitting. Why can't I draw anything? These little bits of light that are hitting the. Oh, weird. Oh, it's black. Huh. Not quite sure that's not drawing anything. Anyway, these little pockets of light here. There we go. That's hitting these trees. I think like that really adds a lot of dynamic quality, and it feels like light dappling in from the sunlight. So it's really, really good job there. All right, Ashley, we've got your newer version. Looking at the previous one. Looking at the character, you now get a better sense of that light kind of penetrating through there. You've got it's a nice like little magenta rim on her, which I don't think makes any sort of logical sense. Like there's no magenta lights back there, but it's working, right? Like it feels pretty good. I think you could desaturate that just a touch. But other than that, I think you can leave that as is. Good job getting extra shaping and bounce light into this plant in here. And into some of the overall down in here too. I think that's starting to look really good. We got cleaned up some depth of field edging issues, although it's almost like you eroded the edge a little bit on some of this stuff. I'm looking at these plants over here on the screen left side, and let's see. Oh no, wait, the old one was the eroded. Oh wait, never mind. I got those backwards. Okay, yeah, the new one looks better. The new one looks much better. So yeah, I think this is looking good. We're getting into some more minor notes now. But the biggest one is I want to figure out a way to get more attention on her eyes. And there are going to be a couple ways that we do that. Number one, I think the hair can go a little bit brighter. Like it's a little gray dusty, and I think that these like the brighter points in it can go more white, and then the whites of the eyes can go a little bit brighter too. Again, this is a tough thing about this camera angle. We're looking up at her and we're only seeing like a sliver of her eye, so we're gonna have to really not go like super over the top, but crank those up a little bit more in order to feel those. Let's see. Watch out for these leaves in here. I guess those are leaves. Are starting to look a little bit brown. Let's pull in some of the green elements in there. I like that they're desaturated a little bit, but like right now they're looking a little bit like brownish, like a dirt color. And then I would try and get, if you have, this is tricky. I'm trying to get more shaping inside of these flowers in here. So if you have ambient occlusion, I would maybe try adding some of that in there. Don't go crazy with it because you don't want it to go too dark, and you can even give it some color, but just getting some core darkness in the center of those flowers would help out a lot. Again, not a lot, just like a touch more, because right now they feel a little bit flat. Everything else is working pretty well. And the only other thing I would also do is with the sky, with the sun coming in from this side, I think the sky is a little bit flat. I would consider putting a ramp on this sky back here and just brightening up just a little bit as we go more towards the screen right. But I think that'll help out a lot. So really good job there. Annabelle, very cool. Updated from the previous version. Big difference. Love, got a little bit more depth of field on that, it looks like. It looks like the floating particulates have fallen just a touch. but overall the lighting is much better. I like how we've pushed the glow on the flowers a little bit, and I love where the skin is going. My big note for you for this iteration is I think your skin can go even an iteration warmer, like into like this realm a little bit. Because what we want is we'll have the glowiness from her from these flowers in front, but let me push a little more than that. But like we're still lacking the true warmth in her skin tone, because again, like we don't have to stay 100% on her skin tone, but like we want to maintain that, so it's her hero color. It's how we identify her when we're looking at her quickly, and it's something that would be very important on an animated film, and something that like a lighting supervisor or a lead or somebody would notice in your work. So that would be really strong in your demo reel there. So yeah, just adding a little bit more warmth to the skin. I think bonus points would be to get an eye reflection of these glowing surfaces, like to see the flowers in the eye a little bit. I know that might disrupt that perfect eye ding placement, but let's try it. Let's see if that works. And trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much it with this one. This one's coming along really well. And this is why I encouraged you to do another iteration, because you had such a strong foundation with your first one that it tends to be that, like, because here's the thing. I'm a firm believer that, like, when you're working with something in CG, especially personal projects, it's just kind of like sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And sometimes they all come together really nicely, and sometimes they don't. So for you, I think this one came together really, really well. And so when that happens, you need to make the most of it, right? Like, you need to do a couple iterations of it. And I think that you're demonstrating not only a really good skill level to this, but also showing how you can really lean into a good project and make it great by adding a few more iterations of it. So really great job there. All right, Andre. Great first project submission. And first off, welcome to the group. So one of the things that I'm really noticing about this that stands out to me, I mean, obviously there's the depth of field that allows us to focus on the character. That really directs the viewer's eye. We get really good shaping across her head. We've got that, Rembrandt triangle shaping across her chin, down her arm, across her torso, her legs, the cello, or I don't know if that's a cello or a bass, but even like her fingers, like there's like good shaping coming down all through there. The one subtle thing that I think they probably tweaked that I think is great that we would also do in CG is her skin tone. Similar to what we were just mentioning in the previous version, if you look at kind of everything else, there's kind of a cooler color palette. It's a little green, like the grays of her sweater and her outfit are a little bit on the bluish green side. But look at her, but her skin tone is still rich. It's still like her natural skin tone, and I think that's really standing out because it's allowing everything. Like, there's two things that have warmer tones in it: her skin and the cello, and it's allowing those two elements to make an emotional connection because. This is probably something that's demonstrating that she's a cellist. And again, I don't know if it's a bass or a cello, but we're going with cello because it allows me to say the word cellist, which I like. Couple other things to notice in terms of reference, if you're going to be using this in reference in your CG, is notice the specular highlights on her lips, also on her skin, the tip of her nose, and then her eye dings too. Like, this is a really good example of some really nice eye dings in a live action character. And also the way that her eye whites are a little bit brighter than everything else in the scene and allowing us to really make a connection to her eyes. So great example, great submission, and I'm looking forward to see where you go from here. So thank you very much, Aaron. I'm sorry, Andre. I was looking ahead to our next two Aaron. So let's see, Aaron T. We have two submissions from you. I like this color of wall a little bit better. I like this image a little bit better because it's a little darker tonality wise, and it's really kind of helping center us in. It also feels like there's a little bit less ambient occlusion around. And I'm guessing you wanted us to pick one over the other, which is why you submitted a couple. But yeah, okay. So I like this one. And taking a look at your reference, you talked about having a little bit of the warmth on the snow. Snow is super tricky. And I really like this interior shot because it's a nice combination of the warm sunlight coming in and the cooler environment. Yeah, I think so. Looking out of this window, I think like it's super saturated out there compared to what we're seeing inside. So I would pull back the saturation on that. It also feels like a little bit low res, so make sure you have a good, strong image out there. It might just be everything might be a little low res, but that was something that stood out to me out there. One thing to be aware of, you've got some really nice bounce light coming up in here, but it's almost casting a sharp shadow up in here, which isn't quite you wouldn't quite get that sharp of a shadow up there. It'd be a little bit softer. Love these God rays coming in, but they're feeling a little bit on the pink side. I would push them a little bit more towards like a warmer, like a yellow color. But overall, this is looking really good. Like, look at this nice shaping you're getting in these foreground elements. I think this, like, those are really successful. Some of these very darks in the bike, I would try lifting that just a touch. Like, I'm talking like 3 to 5%, just so they don't go too bulletproof dark, and just like have a little bit of value in there, because what you have overall is just like nice overall soft bounce shaping. Just like a good cohesive image, and I think that's really nice. I would also work at getting a little more bounce light up underneath this telescope, I think, and filling in some of the darker values on the legs. I think the legs are a little bit too dark on the dark side. And then bonus points if you want to start putting some stuff into these picture frames. Keep them subtle, but it feels a little odd that they're all blank. That would be my other tip for you there. But yeah, this is looking really great. Oh, and lastly, I meant to mention that in your comp, I would add a little bit of light wrap. We have some tutorials on that in the courses if you need help with that. Just like a little bit to the edge, because it's a little bit pixel perfect right around the edge there, and you want that light to kind of bleed around there just a touch. But yeah, really, really good job overall. All right, Aaron B. All right. So yeah, so previous version, updated version. You have the craziest naming convention. I've yet to figure out. M84N. Yeah, as long as it works for you. I mean, it sounds pretty super rad. But I think, yeah, I'm curious about it. I'm equal parts curious about it, and just like, you know what, man, you be you. You got this. I think you got this all under control. So good updates there. You can see before, after. I do think I see where you darken back here, but I do think that I would actually darken the area back behind it. It's probably like a plane or whatever is back behind those plants, because I see you darken that, but it's the areas in between them that are now standing out as being a little bit bright. The specularity in her skin looks a lot better. I think that looks really good. I would try and get a little, like, if you can, maybe a little bit more like on her lips and around there. If you can get her eyebrows to get a little bit darker, they're, especially this one, it's just kind of getting thin and faded. And I would add, looking at this region in here of these flowers. Oh man, I think they're getting, nope, that's not what I want to do. I think they are getting, I think you can push them a little bit brighter, kind of up into that range a little bit. Just because they're starting to look a little bit on the dingier side. And probably same thing with these over here and these over here. Just like lifting them up. It might be a matter of just gamming them up a little bit. And then lastly, looking at the main shadow, it does again feel just a touch sharp. And I'm seeing it like, and the only reason why I'm noticing it or care is because of the slashing across the neck here. Like that little shape is, it's almost like aggressive, and then down here, and then this line across there. If you could just soften, and maybe a little bit here on the arm, if you could just soften those just a touch, I think it'll be really nice. So that's it. That's all I got for. Oh, last one, and then this plant here. Maybe try darkening that just a touch more in the foreground. That's it. So thank you guys all again. I hope that each and every one of you that's celebrating Thanksgiving does so safely and has a great time. And for everyone else, I just hope everyone is safe and has a wonderful weekend. Again, your orders are to eat something delicious if you can, and no, not if you can. Just eat something delicious. Treat yourself. Life is too short. Go enjoy yourselves. Have a good time, and I will talk to you all on Monday. All right, happy lighting, everybody.